God afternoon. And I start with God afternoon, God morning, God evening, God everything. And if you would look that up, I was out on the bike trail uh, near Burger Station, one of my favorite places. And I said God morning to a gentleman, and he was on a bike with two other people, and he came back around and he said, "Excuse me, lady, what did you say?" I said, "God morning." And he said, "I'm going to look that up." And if he had waited, I would have told him, but it was better that he look it up for himself. My pastor says, study to show yourself approved. And if he had looked it up, what he would have found was way back in the day, way back in the day, people would say it that way in order to identify themselves with God. And I thought, I'm bringing it back. So, good afternoon to you all. I am who I am by the grace of God. We did this presentation, first of all, at the League of Women Voters. Amen to that one. During Black History Month. And I want to give honor and credit to Bobard. I called and I said, I need some statistics. And she said, what do you need? And I was able to tell her. She says, well, I'm going away for a week, but I'll be back and I'll get it for you. I said, I've got plenty of time, no problem. So in my home office, I got up and I walked around and did whatever I needed to do. I probably got a cup of decaffeinated coffee, although it does anything but trick me into thinking that I had coffee. So I got back to my desk at my home office and she had already sent the statistics. I nearly fell over. I said, but that's the Citrus County that I live in. So I appreciate being here today. We three, at least, have been at one of the function already today. And I said, if I'm late, just go ahead and start, do something, and we'll get there. So I really want to thank, first of all, God, as always. And I want to thank Betty for inviting me. And I want to thank this illustrious board for the work that you do. And thank you for hearing me. So now let's clear the air. I may say some things that you don't particularly agree with. That's okay. You've got an opinion, and I've got an opinion, and all God's children got an opinion. But this is what I do know, because you'll hear some things about the Civil War. What I know is, as human beings, we all bleed red. So I don't see white, green, yellow, green, purple, brown, black. I don't see that. I see an incredible bunch of people who are striving to be pleased unto him. So when I see a Confederate flag flying, my first thought isn't something ugly and nasty. My thought is, oh my God, so many people died on both sides, either side, and they all bled red. So can we just all feast on the fact that they did that for all of us? And here we are today. So let's move forward, and we will. So I knew I might have to careen my neck. So I've got my information on the slide, and I'll nod at my president of the League of Women Voters, and we'll get these done. As I said, this presentation, you know what? I've got to back up first. My earthly king, my Lord, my little Jesus. Thank you so very much for getting me something to walk up here on. I appreciate you. Oh, yes. I can't see if it's right. I clicked and I clicked. Thank you. On helps. I always say it's a user problem. It's only me, no matter where I go with Vicky. With Vicky, you getting my point?
There we go.
Okay. All right. So not only since I did this presentation last time was it Black History Month, but there's also Women's History Month. So I'm sure you guys have been looking at television and you have seen all the things that we incredibly wonderful women have done for this country. Not to negate the men, but I must say, without Adam and Eve, we wouldn't be in this predicament. But anyway, so again, I would just want to thank you for having me here. So what do we say? What is my story? Why am I doing this? Um, if you got something that you can make a note on, I'm going to ask you to make a note in a little bit because I want you to know truly what's going on, not what they say, but truly what's going on. Whenever I speak, I know it's my reputation. I know that I've been a nurse for 50 years, and with our children and grandchildren and great grandchildren, I got my doctorate when I was 70 years old, just in time for COVID. And the CDC called me, and I said, "What do you want?" They said, "We need you to work with Tallahassee to do a budget to help us through this." And I said, "Okay." And they said, "Where would you like to be connected to? Citrus County or Marion County?" I said, "I live in Citrus. Let's do it there." At the time, Tito Rubio was the administrator there. And he said, "When this little assignment is over with the CDC, we need you to stay on." So we remember all the chaos when we first started getting our COVID shots, and everybody was all upset because nobody knew nothing, but you didn't know anything either. So why are you picking on the health department? And it got smoothed out because we did a time and motion study. We looked at how long it took you guys to get from one place to another through those long lines, and it got better. And now you can get your COVID shots all by yourself. And I appreciate that. So for me, Black History Month is about sharing to those that will hear. And if you close your ears, it makes the problem not mine at all, but yours. So I'm glad you're here today so you can be part of solution rather than problems. There is much to examine about Black life and culture through time and space. But there's an organization that I'd like to tell you about that you may not have heard of. And if you have, you can just raise your hand, and that's called agreement. There's a company called the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. For many, many years, they have actually established a theme, if you could believe that, one that would guide us through the celebration of Black history. But in my life, last time I looked, Black history is every day. And with you, because we're going to leave here being just the best of friends, you will want to know what the heck we Black people are doing during Black History Month. So, one of those things is we celebrate our history and our ancestors. And the reason we say African American or Caribbean American is because we know where we originated. We did our DNA study, and even before that, we knew that we were African in descent. And my husband's 40 something percent Nigerian, and my percentage is close behind. And he made a joke. He said, "I hope this isn't incest." And I'm like, "Shut up." Did you hear that one tenth away or whatever? But the study of African American history goes on. So since 1929, the group has been presenting a theme. So I'll give you the initials because that might be all you can write down, and then I'll tell you what it stands for. So it is the ASAALF, and that's the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. ASAALH. So yes, there's been progress. There's been progress in terms of wages, employment, and not just for African Americans or Black people, but for all of us. And there has been a decrease in discrimination, although sometimes I think we're going backwards again. Mhm. But you guys have had a voice and you have said enough of all of this. We can talk about the things that we've done in terms of Black professionals. And I think by now I'm a Black professional. I've been in school for so long doing it, as well as there are Black occupations. But I want to tell you about this particular instance where there is unionization. The first union for African Americans was done by A. Philip Randolph. And some of you know that name. He started the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters and Maids. And it was the first union chartered by the American Federation of Labor back 100 years ago. So why do I care? What's my claim to fame with that? Well, I have a father who's in heaven now. His name is John Washington Dukes Sr. John Washington Dukes Sr. used to leave the house and he would be gone for days and then he'd come back. And us kids we were like, where have you been? My father was a cook on the Atlantic Seaboard Coastline Railway that went from Orlando, Florida to Washington, D.C. So that's my claim to fame about the connection, Kevin Bacon and the 6 degrees of separation. Likewise, it was Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. who took some of the ideas from A. Philip Randolph and incorporated them into what we know as the Black experience related to civil rights. In 1967, thank you. In 1967, there was a poor people's campaign to become full citizens. I have some references, and I believe that this presentation will be put on your website for folks to reference. So now that we're marking all these people from the past, I am also tired of hearing about the same Black people every year. I mean, there were more of us than what you've heard about, okay? So let's talk a little bit about the Black vote then, whenever your then is. There was something called the challenge to the grandfather clause, and that was in 1915. And they actually put it in the newspaper. And it said that if your grandfather or great grandfather or great great grandfather did not vote in the election of 1865, we as descendants could not vote. So you're looking at somebody that would not have been able to vote. However, there are challenges to be overcome. Then there's another one, the challenge to an all-white primary. How many of you know that in the beginning, there was only the Democratic Party and it originated in Texas? How many knew that? Okay. One knew. Okay. And in order to keep it segregated, they declared that the Democratic Party was only for white people. So there we were, excluded again. Somebody got smart enough to decide, you know, we are intelligent people. We have taught this land how to farm with great agriculture. We've taught people how to care for their babies right in their own homes. And there's even some mixed cross bloods up in there somewhere. That's why when you look at each other, it's not your tanning salon. It's not that you've been laying out in the sun nude to get that all over body effect. It is truly that someone, particularly some man, saw some beautiful Black woman and could not resist. So we have all of that and more. We know about Rosa Parks and the bus. And we know that she left behind a legacy of notes and manuscripts talking about her feelings and what it meant to be Black at that time. We also know that as much as President Lyndon Baines Johnson wants to take credit for the civil rights amendments, we know that it was started before him. And I'm glad he had the pleasure of signing it. Maybe it helped him in some way. I won't talk about that. And then I'm going to skip a couple of these. There has been in 2010 the 45th anniversary of the March to Selma. My relationship to any kind of marching was being able to celebrate the 30th March in Washington, D.C. in tribute to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. There have been amendments after amendments related to voting rights, and an amendment was proposed in 1965. It gave, or was supposed to give, African Americans the right to vote. It was, in fact, the 14th Amendment to the Constitution in 1868. It's interesting to me that as so many people fought and died, that there were African Americans who fought as well. And they didn't just fight on the side of the Union. There were some who, at their master's request, they fought with the Confederacy. Like I said, we all bleed red. The challenge to the grandfather clause in 1915 came by way of being asked to do a pardon for uh, one person, last name was Ginn, and the other one was Beale. And you'll notice that we don't have a lot of first names because so much got lost in translation or was actually crossed out, erased, buried, and hidden. But we do know that they had been convicted under this grandfather law with the Supreme Court in 1915. And with the 14th Amendment, we even got smart enough to say, you know what, we're doing this all wrong. So we started to organize. Thereby came the NAACP. And you would think because it's the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, that the colored people created the NAACP. Well, white people, you got one more that you can add to your list. You actually went to a group of African Americans and said, you know what? We want to help, just like all of you in this room are helping. And there was the birth of NAACP. So that's a little bit about the history of voting. There is, in fact, I want to talk about that all white primary. We got together and we decided, you know what? We're not doing anything by just talking about it. Let's sue somebody. And the suit came in 1931, although all of this had been going on since the 1920s. So there were some lawyers that were working with and for the NAACP, and they challenged that Texas law. They argued that their client, Dr. Lawrence A. Nelson, was denied a meaningful choice in an election because of that Texas law. And you know that our laws never move forward and become enacted unless empathetic and even sympathetic people join the push. And so many did. And that was the end of the all white primary. So let's talk about a few statistics here. You'll notice that the writing is too small for you to read for a reason, because there are a lot of statistics. But let's give credit to the Citrus County District Analysis for those that voted in the 2004 general election. And some absentee voters votes were rejected. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But you see my little arrows right there where it talks about the blacks, and then it intersects with the total number of black voters compared to white. It's a minuscule number, isn't it? But I'm going to tell you why that minuscule number is going to be very important. It also talks about uh, the gender of people that voted, black and white. It also talked about whether they were Democrats or Republicans or others. And all of that's good because we are the hodgepodge of complexity and good things in this country. So we'll go a little further. And this next one is still yet another district vote. And this is actually for the city of Inverness. And it says that there were 777 blacks in uh, the county and 49,102 whites. And then they've got the black and the white uh, breakout. And the reason I'm showing you the statistics is people will tend to tell you that black people are just a bunch of lazy people that sit around and collect welfare. I wish I would have retired a long time ago. However, no matter how small the group, we all have a voice, and that voice should be used. There is a long history of African Americans in your community. We had lived in Canterbury Lake Estates, and we wanted to stay there so we could learn the community and see where we wanted to be. Adjacent to that property is an African American community. It's right behind Burger Station. And the Alexander family is well known and interwoven into that. So during COVID, my king and I, we put on backpacks and we walked that community because they weren't going anywhere. Lack of transportation, lack of you name it, it was there. And so we said, is there 5 acres in here? Or is there 2 acres in here? Because my husband said 2 acres is the least that he will do. And at the same time, we're steadily handing out and giving them information about COVID to help them how to protect themselves. So the list goes, and I'll read them rapidly. If you know them, shoot your hand up in the air. Alexander, Beasley, Bellamy, Bostic, Brooks. Oh, you know a lot. Bunch, Carter, Collins, Copeland, Dabney, Edwards, Gibbs, Henry, Hopkins, Horton James, Jefferson, Johnson, Jones, Joyner, King, Langley, Natal, Norton, Richardson, Robinson. I don't see your hands. Shrivens, Simmons, Washington, Whaley, White, Williams, Wilson, and Woods. Those are, as far as I can tell, the people that are historic African Americans to Citrus County. And then we have some pioneer families. I'm not done yet. You remember the Reverend Leroy Bellamy? That's an Inverness one. John Bostic that I mentioned from Dunellen. Isaac Brooks. You are so good. Crystal River. Robert Collins, Inverness. Fred Copeland. Is he the one that has that restaurant over in Crystal River? Copeland. Who is it? Oh, okay. And Dabney and Gibbs and King and Robinson and Whaley and all of these people from Crystal River, Inverness, and my little old Hernando. The Voting Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act is historical in that it helps us identify what you think and what you don't know. What you think is when the Voting Rights Act was passed, that it was perpetual. It is not. Every so many years, it has to be re-ratified. Mm-hmm. So that was meant to ensure that it was reviewed, and if there were any outliers and discrimination related to that, that those could be worked through without having a perpetual vote document that does nothing. So in 1866, 1869, 1896, and so forth, it was reviewed. It was reviewed the last time in 2016. And that makes it such that it's almost time to review it again. Right? So be on the listen out. Started in 1866 and it grants citizenship, but not the right to vote to all Native Americans. And in 1869, on this next, you'll see people standing in line to cast their vote. Anybody see anything interesting about one of the voters? He's what? Okay, he's in a uniform. Yes, he's a union guy. So let me tell you, they were out there fighting and voting during the civil, out there fighting, but did not have the right to vote. At one point, here comes a need for people, the bravest and the best, to go to battle. And they expected to have the African Americans rush out there first, because that's what we do, boy. We take care of people, as do you. However, not one African American soldier moved. And everyone looked around and said, what's going on? They said, well, we're through fighting until you guys give us the right to vote. And they said, we'll give it to you later. No, we're not moving until you give us the right to vote. And they were granted the right to vote. My Lord, if you would, pass out I know what it is. Yes, thank you. The literacy test. And you've got some help. So here we go. You may have to share so we can get these out quickly, but let me tell you what you're going to be looking at. This is an actual literacy test that was given. You would think it was given to everyone, but it's not. Only 3% of the eligible African Americans in the South were registered to vote. And because of the Jim Crow laws, like the literacy test and poll taxes, people weren't, and it kept African Americans from voting. You have in front of you the literacy test and on the screen from the state of Louisiana. In Louisiana, I want you to look at this test. It is for anyone who cannot prove that they have a fifth grade education. Well, even back then, a lot of African Americans weren't even educated. So, that knocked them out right away. But as you look at this test, I want you to think to yourself, would you have been able to pass this test? And here are the qualifiers. You have 10 minutes to do the test. If you get even one wrong, you are not eligible to vote. So look at them, boy. They are working on that thing. Look at them. They're already talking in groups. Mm-hmm. And even if someone passed the test, you know that that's just one test. There are other tests, aren't there? We're going to have a little interactive thing in a little bit, and we'll show you one of the other kinds of tests. So this literacy test was back in 1940. Can somebody tell me about a test that keeps someone from voting even today? Say it again. Yes. Can anyone tell me what kind of activity can cause people to not vote today? Right there, a hand. ID. ID. There you go. How about another one? Criminal record. Criminal record. Thank you. So all of access. Say it again. Access. Access. Transportation. Oh, thank you. Transportation. Exactly. So I was out holding up my little sign for somebody during this last elections, and I saw a woman sitting on a chair down the sidewalk from me in Inverness at the government center. So I went over to her and I said, "What are you doing here?" And she introduced herself, and now we're great friends. She said, "I'm a poll watcher." I said, "What are you watching for?" And she said, "For any kind of coercion, for anyone that is turned away, if they will speak with me, I ask them what was the issue or what was the problem." And sometimes it was, "Oh, my signatures didn't match." Still, here we go. So I went to the AT&T store this past week, and I went to Spectrum because I wanted to know why my bill was so high and what were you going to do to fix it, because you need to try and keep our business. They asked me for my ID, so I gave them my driver's license. They have a new scanner, and the scanner looks to see if the name on my ID is the same name as on the account, which my husband, God bless him, he pays all the bills. I know nothing except to just look good for him. And right on cue. And in doing so, they said, "I'm so sorry, we can't give you information about your account." I said, "Why not?" And he said, "Because your ID does not match." So imagine that. Because I go by BJ, Dr. BJ, and because it's my real given name, I said, "Don't say it out loud." Only my father called me that when I had really messed up something. So you can see how even today people can be turned away from voting. So in 1964, there was a 24th Amendment, and that was adopted, and that outlawed poll taxes. So even with that, in August of 2020, I'll call no name except the governor of Florida saw fit to retrieve and continue with some practices that should have ended poll tax in all states and some of the things that you mentioned. So that caused us to think it sounds like we're having to pay to vote. It sounds like when a person has done their time and made retribution, that we still don't bless you, that we still don't want them to vote. So anything that you can do to help someone because they won't speak up, it may be a simple matter for them to be in contact with the judicial system and to get their rights restored. And I do know that there's a group that works in Citrus County and many counties, every county actually, throughout Florida to help that happen. So let's step back a little bit in time and go to 1965 to the Montgomery March in Selma. And you can see the people, and I don't particularly like this particular one because it just shows people just being so pristine and wonderful, just walking along and probably holding hands and skipping along. And that was not the case. They were looking around every corner. They were getting hit with fire hoses. They were being shot at and killed. They were being hung. You name it, it happened. It took it took people to sue, to march, and don't forget to pray to get beyond that. I think about my own parents. We would get in a vehicle and we would go to Georgia to visit our relatives. And I say, I gotta go to the bathroom. And they say, hold it. I said, no, 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 I gotta go. I said, hold it. I said, I gotta go. And I didn't realize that I couldn't just go to the bathroom anywhere I wanted to go. And I thought, well, this isn't working out so good, is it? And when our families would visit each other, they would have all this food that they would take with them. And I'm like, what's with all the food? There's a restaurant right there. There's this over there. No, we had to eat what we had on the road or wait until we got to our relatives' homes to eat. So all that disparaging stuff, and we're still here, and you're still here with us. As I said before, uh, President Lyndon Baines Johnson did in fact sign the Voting Rights Act into law. That caused an increase in the number of registered Black voters, and by the end of 1965, there were 250,000 new Black voters that had registered, one-third of them by federal examiners. So once enough people were turned away from voting, the federal government actually came in, examined their cases, marched them right back down to City Hall or wherever, and said, no, we have proof that they are citizen and that they can vote and so forth. So just keep it going. Even in 1970, there was a extension of the Voting Rights Act, and Richard Nixon himself signed that one. In 1972, there was a congressional milestone when Barbara Jordan of Houston and Andrew Young of Atlanta became the first African Americans elected to Congress from the South since Reconstruction. Then in 1975, Gerald Ford signed the extension. We just keep going. In 1982, there was the 25-year extension. So that one was longer than the ones that had been in the past. And hopefully, as we continue, we can just keep it going. So we have a growing number of Black officials, and that doesn't mean that every official that's elected is a good one. Okay. And we've heard some names lately. I won't say New York mayor, but anyway, everyone is due the due course of law, and everyone is presumed innocent until found otherwise. So I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. In 2006, it was George W. Bush that signed. And the next one will be in 2031. So we are good until then. But given everything that's going on with our executive branch of government, you can imagine that there will be attempts to do a whole lot of other things. So I need you to open your mouths. I want you to know that even if I die today, my soul will rest in heaven, because one of the reasons I can do these kinds of things is I've got a big mouth, but I also back it up with facts. And I back it up with people that will stand by me and say, don't bother her, she's okay. In 2010 through 2016, then Attorney General Eric Holder was actually had to confront some voting rights issues in none other than Texas, South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina, Mississippi, Louisiana, and even in Florida. There are some links in the video that you'll be able to tap on if you want to get to more information. In 2011, there was a voter suppression that occurred, and a record number of registrations were tossed out or tried to be justified. And it bleeds my heart to say that our Florida was part of that. And we've lived in several different states. Myself, New York, DC, Florida, Little Rock, Arkansas, mm, Dallas, Texas. I think I got them all. And abroad in Saudi Arabia. You see the picture with the woman sitting on the folding chair that should be a stroller, and you see the black woman sitting outside signing. You see the little girl sitting on her lap. We tell you, continue to take your children, your grandchildren, some of you, your great grandchildren. That would be me. I'm in that group. I'm 74, almost 75, and loving it. And there could be so many more things that I could tell you about how bad it was, but I like to look to the now. Even though in 1961 they were still doing this poll tax thing and the photo ID thing in 2011, there is hope, and you are that hope. You are the ones who will stand up and say, we in Citrus County, I heard a story. I've heard that, you know what the Freedom Riders were? Okay. That the Freedom Riders actually showed up in Citrus County, somewhere near the courthouse. And, well, they showed up, but they didn't quite get off the bus because they were advised that everyone in this county is loved and beloved. And if you're going to come here to stir up trouble, you may as well just keep going because we're just fine. And I can tell you that while we had our house built, each time one of the group of workers would finish, my husband and I, we would put out a spread and feed them to thank them, because they could have just messed your house up and you never know it. So this one particular time, after we had fed everyone, we bundled everything up, and I walked over to where one of the guys were resting. He was resting in his truck. And I said, oh, he was smoking too. I'm allergic, but I did it anyway. I said, here, take the rest of this. And he got out of his vehicle and he started crying and sobbing. And I said, are you okay? He said, yes, lady. He said, you don't know what you've done for me. We don't know how I was going to feed my two daughters tonight. And I'm thinking, that's just one meal away. And I'm sitting here eating anything I want, whenever I want. And the next time one of the gentlemen came to the house, he had a huge Confederate flag on the back of his vehicle. So let's please stop judging people by the color of their skin. Let's stop judging them by the flags or the signs that they wear. Let's get to know people. And I've gotten to know some of your people from this board. I've gotten to know, how many of you have ever seen me before? Ooh, I better be good. Okay. I'm moving on because I want to have time for something else. Can you help me with on each table, please? And if we run out, we'll do something about that. And I'm sure I'm over my time. However, bear with me. That's good right there. You get there before me. I like that. She knows me well. Okay. On your tables, each of you, if you would take a writing implement and take a piece of paper, there will be some containers that we passed around, one to each table. Please do not open them. Don't open the little container that you'll get. I am not responsible for any poisonings from people not listening to me and starting to eat on vanilla wafers. Can we get a little more help and then we'll get this knocked out? If just put all the pens in somebody's hand and let them pass them on down if they need one. And could you get the containers out, my love? Anybody need a pen? You need a pen for one time only. And if you like the pen, you can keep it. We've got hundreds. Each of you is going to write down one number. Those of you that are at a table, consider yourselves to be a group, okay? That way we won't have to count off or anything. And if we run out of containers, that's okay. The rest of you can just listen. Each table gets one. Is there a table that does not have a container? Yes, I know. I'm so sorry. Did you have any more? Yes. Okay, there's some over here. The containers are numbered. Who has container number 1? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And 10. Okay. Oh, you get to sit this one out. Okay, so here we go. Remember I said the literacy test wasn't sometimes enough for them to exclude people? They would give them jelly beans to count or some other ridiculous thing. So what I want you to do is, first of all, as an individual, write down how many you think is in the container on your table. That's the first number that you're going to write down. No talking among yourselves yet. Individual work, remember, just like kindergarten, grade school, middle school, high school, college. How many people have a number written down? Oh, this is going to be good. For those of you where all of your table now has a number written down, I need you to collaborate, and you're going to come up with one number from among you. One number from among you. So each table, it's all those football games that I went to with the kids. You can hear me. You're going to, now the table is going to come up with just one number. Is table number 1 ready? You have a number for me? Where's number one? Are you ready? Any guess is a good guess. Oh, how about that? You have to talk and come up with one number from among you. You got your individual number. Now you're getting your group number. So I'm going to go to table number 2. How many? 130. 130. Number 3. 48. Number 4. Did you hold your container up? Number 4. What's your container? Okay, how many? 134. Table number 5. What's your container? Honey Nut Cheerios. How many?
125.
125. Number 6.
29.
29. No, you say right where you are. Oh, number 1, you ready? 25. And number 7. What's in your jug? What's in your container? Number 7. 139. What's in there? Toothpicks. Okay. Number 8. Cashews. How many?
123.
123. Number 9.
150.
150. Oh, push pins. 150. Is that correct?
150.
Okay. And number 10. 20. What's in that container?
Peanuts.
Oh, so some of those. Okay. The closest without going over. I'm going to read all of them. Number 1, hold your container up again. You said that there are 25. There are actually 24. You went over. What? Hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, without going over. So tape number 1, unfortunately, you would not be able to vote. Number 2. Number 2.
130.
Yes, I remember. Of what? What is it?
Tabs.
Oh, tabs. Okay. There are actually 106 in there. Sorry. Table number 3. Table number 3. Container number 3. You said 48. And there were 69. Number 4. Number 4. Okay, and you said 134. There were 154. Number 5. Okay, my Honey Nut Cheerios. You said 125 and there are 244. Number 6. You said 29. And unfortunately, there are 28. Number 7. Toothpicks. You said 139. There are 222. Number 8. Cashews. You said 123. There are 250. Number 9.
150.
150 of push pins. There are 190 in there. Number 10. Number 10. You said 20. There are 12. Okay, so the closest without going over. The closest without going over. Oh my gosh.
A lot of math.
Okay, Um, well, okay, I'm going to take the went over because the others are too far away from the real number. So that would be number one who held us up over there.
Yeah.
Okay. And number six, that would be you guys. Okay. So can you imagine? Can you imagine that you're one shy of being able to vote? It's time to raise Cain. It's time to throw that whole system away and let people vote. Just let them vote. Okay. I'm tired. No. So please, you can keep the pens, but I need the containers back, but I don't need them back right now. We can pick them up before I go. Okay. Oh, they got them. Ooh.
Wanted to make sure we didn't eat it.
Wanted to make sure you didn't eat anything. So this exercise was merely to let you know that there has been a struggle, and the struggle is ongoing. And it's not just the African American, Black, Latino, it is all of us. We could get caught up in some indiscriminate little law that disqualifies us. And we don't want that. So I like to say, particularly in healthcare, we are only as healthy as the least of us is healthy. So extrapolate that and say to yourselves, we want the best for our country. And that means anyone that's eligible to vote should be able to vote. I thank you.
Thank you.
Him first. Help me get out of here. Louder. Way in the water, children. Way in the water. God's gonna trouble the water.